and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome back to the Cegs table. Now, for those that have been watching the show for a long time or any of our shows, these two guys might look a little bit familiar. That's because I'm joined today by my boy, Dalton from 302Birds. Dalton, how we doing tonight?
Hey, Mr. JJ Seglio. I'm doing great. Thank you for having me as a guest. I'm excited to be here on your show, the Cegs table. So we're going to run the table tonight. We're going to have some fun. You told me we're talking all NFL, and can't wait to be here. If you guys don't already, drop a fat sub for the gentleman in the chat.
Appreciate it, Dalton. All right. Without further ado, let's start off this with our Week 17 picks. Now, let's be honest. This NFL season has been nothing short of chaos. Let's just make that very, very, very clear. This season is on all the drugs possible.
This season's been a shit show, to say the least, JJ. And there you go. I told you I want to curse in a minute and 55 seconds into the show. The kid from Philly does it already. Not Philly. I'll say Delaware for everybody from Philly watching. But in all seriousness, I think, this NFL season has really been something that nobody saw coming. If you would have told me that Geno Smith would be a Pro Bowler and the Seahawks would have a chance at going to the playoffs, I would have told you you're crazy. So it's been wild.
I agree 100%. So without further ado, let's get started. Our first game we have is the Dallas Cowboys, your favorite team according to your last couple of videos, and the Tennessee Disappointments.
Look, tonight I got that game. I think that the Titans are going to upset the Cowboys, and I know that sounds crazy right now, but when we go back and watch this video when I was right later, look, the Cowboys are a good team, but they're going to get ran all over tonight by Derrick Henry. Their defense is slipping, especially their secondary. And I think that the Cowboys are kind of riding a high after barely beating the Philadelphia Eagles. Let's not forget that they lost the Jacksonville Jaguars a week before. So I really do think, JJ, for some reason, I have a gut instinct feeling that the Cowboys will lose tonight to the Titans. I don't know why, but give me are we doing score predictions? Do you do them on here, or do you want just a...
Yeah, we do. We do score predictions here. If you want to, like, you don't have to, but you can if you want to.
Okay, so for this one, I'll do one just for, the hell of it. I'm gonna say give me the Titans walking away with this win, 31-20.
Okay, interesting. I'm going Cowboys because it's Joshua Dobbs, for Christ's sake, not Malik Willis from what I've heard. So I think the Cowboys are going to steamroll them. Titans, you had one job, beat Houston Texans, kiss the AFC South goodbye. Next up, we've got a game that I don't think even these teams' fan bases will be watching. The Arizona Cardinals and the Atlanta Falcons. God bless whoever watches this game.
I don't even know who I want to pick in this game, to be honest, because is whatchamacallit playing? Is Kyler Murray playing, or is he out for the season?
He's done for the year. It's probably going to be Cole McCoy. It depends if he's like long-term injured, so expect McSorley.
So, yeah, you're right. I think it is Trace McSorley will be going out this week. Give me the Cardinals. I can't even give you a score prediction because that game could go either way, but I'll go ahead and go with the Cardinals just for Trace McSorley.
Yeah, that game's going to suck. Let's be honest. I'm going with the Falcons. I think Desmond Ridder is going to have a really good game. He's going to be solid. He's going to do really good, I have a feeling, because that Cardinals defense is atrocious. Next up, we got, I think what is semi a better game, the Dolphins and the Patriots. The Patriots, if they win, they'll most likely be a wild card team because they'll jump the Dolphins because of that division record. However, if the Dolphins win, they secure a playoff berth. What are we going with here? Tua will not be playing. It will be Teddy Bridgewater against Mac Jones in Foxborough.
Look, man, Teddy Bridgewater against Mac Jones. I'm going to say give me Mac Jones. I think the deal breaker for me is the fact that it's in New England. It's in Foxborough. So that, to me, is the deal breaker. I think Mac Jones also kind of has a chip on his shoulder towards the end of the year. He wants to show everybody in New England, I'm your franchise guy, and have no doubt going into the draft. You don't know what Bill Belichick's going to do once you get to the draft. You don't know what goes through his head, who he might pick up, and who he might turn into the next Tom Brady. So I think Mac Jones understands that he has a generational coach And he needs to be able to prove that he can listen to that generational coach, go out there on the football field and execute. So as much as I hate the Patriots, I respect them. So I think that they'll come away with that one.
I can understand that. I'm going with the Patriots too. I feel like Frank the Tank is one bad mother trucker because what he's said in the past about the Mets collapsing, the Dolphins collapsing, the dude is literally never wrong when a team has its downfall. I think this is when the Dolphins continue their downfall. I think that the loss of Tua is just too big for them. And because of that, I think that I'd be damned if the Patriots lose 3 straight, especially now to a division rival and back-to-back losses at home. I'm going with the Pats.
All right.
Next up, the game that I've been waiting to talk about, you've been waiting to talk about. We got the New Orleans Saints taking on, the number 1 team in the NFL in the Philadelphia Eagles.
Thank you for that. I appreciate that, JJ. Yeah, the Philadelphia Eagles are going to go out and play the Saints this week. Look, if I'm the Eagles, be smart. I made a video about this on our page, 302Birds. Don't go out there and put Jalen Hurts out there. Leave in Gardner Minshew. You have no business putting out your biggest asset going into the playoffs in Jalen Hurts out there and having him risk or re-aggravate that injury. So if I'm the Philadelphia Eagles, put Gardner Minshew out there for the first half, and if all goes to hell, then you can talk about maybe putting in Hurts. I don't think it's wise. I think that Gardner Minshew could either beat the Saints or the Giants, and I don't think that it's really worth putting somebody in. If Jalen wants to go out there, that's different, but I don't think that Jalen needs to go out there against the Saints. I think that even though I'm more scared of the Giants than the Saints, it's not enough of a gap of me being scared for me to say, oh, that outweighs the risk that could be associated with this injury. So if I'm the Philadelphia Eagles, please don't be dumbasses, and please, please, please leave Jalen Hurts on the sideline where he belongs for this game, and let him maybe call some plays, because it's also not that you're a football player, JJ. You know, it's also not that bad to have your backup QB go out there, get some reps in case all goes to hell, knock on wood, but at least your backup QB is somewhat, warm. So we'll see. But I really think that the Eagles have no business putting Minshew out there this week. Give me my Birds winning, let's say 31-19 at home.
I can agree with that, but here's the thing. If I was still in my fantasy championship, I'd get down on my knees and beg the Eagles to start Jalen Hurts. However, I lost in the semifinals because Miles Sanders completely cost me my championship. I was very upset about that. Regardless, I think this should be a walk in the park. The Eagles, they can win the game, and they can completely screw over the Saints in the process. The Eagles benefit 2 different ways. They either win this game and get an even better draft pick because they have the Saints first overall. They have the Saints first pick, which could be the 4th or 5th pick if we're being completely honest.
Yep.
So, yeah, that would be something. I mean, if the Texans won more games, they could have a shot at the number 1 pick, but that's not happening. So the Eagles win either way. If they don't win, the Cowboys gain ground on them. So what? They play an injured Giants team the next week. Philly's going to win the East, and it's going to be a parade down on Broad Street. Well, not yet, but it's coming up. I'm going with Eagles by 1 million.
Yeah, I think so too. I think for the Eagles, this should be, like you said, a walk in the park, JJ. This should not. That's why I think Minshew should stay in. I get it. Fantasy owners around probably the U.S. this week are going to be, sending Nick Sirianni angry candy grams, shitty grams, or whatever you want to call them, Christmas cards. Nick Sirianni, you need to stop being a terrible coach and put in Jalen Hurts. Hey, look, I don't care about any of your fantasy teams. I care about going out and getting another one of these at the end of the day. That's what I'm concerned about. You know that feeling, JJ. You had yours last year. Well, look, I'm trying to get another one so I can stop hearing those Cowboys fans. Exactly. Stop hearing those Cowboys fans talk smack. So I think for me, at the end of the day, the Eagles need to be smart and look at the long term, not the short term.
I completely agree with you. One thing is for sure, though. You better pray Lacey Brown doesn't show up to Philadelphia anymore.
Oh, you saw I made a video on it. I told her, Lacey, you can come next week or next year, Lacey. We'll host a tailgate for you, anything you want. But damn it, you better not come to a freaking playoff game in Philly, because this is the most superstitious city in the world. And if you think that you're going to actually walk into the link, hell, the damn employees won't even let you in.
If they know who she is, yeah, of course. One thing's for sure, though. I've taken the Philadelphia Eagles 15 weeks in a row. Make it 16. Coming up next is the game that, because I'm having a family party here on Sunday at the good old Seglio house. And one thing you should know about the Seglio family is they are massive Giant fans. So they've been stressing over this game all week.
They are. I did not know that. So who do the Giants play this week again?
They play the 4-10-1 Indianapolis Colts.
Oh, wow. And they should win. I don't know if I'd say walk in the park. I think that they're a grittier team than people give them out to be. They got out 30 points ahead on the Vikings. Let's not forget that.
They did, but at the end of the day, the Vikings are the Vikings. The Vikings almost lost to the goddamn Giants. If it wasn't for Greg Joseph pulling a Jake Elliott against the same exact team.
So are the Giants in the playoffs? Are they locked in officially?
As of now, they are. But if they lose this game, they're in some really deep waters. They have to. It's either they lose this game and have a lot of BS happen, or they somehow win in Philadelphia, which they're not beating Gardner Minshew. Let's tell the truth. Eagles are going to stomp the Giants. We saw it happen in MetLife. Could you imagine what it would be like at the link?
I think it's honestly scarier with Minshew starting versus Hurts because Minshew has something. Jalen doesn't have anything to prove. Jalen has no reason to be out there. Minshew does. You're right. Minshew looking for a job next year, man. There's 32 NFL teams. There's teams like the Panthers out there. Why the hell would the Panthers not take a gamble on Gardner Minshew?
Hey,
I would.
If Staff retires, I want him. I do not want Baker Mayfield as my starting QB next year if Staff retires.
So yeah, if I'm the NFL, I think this is a win-win for the Eagles and Gardner Minshew because the Eagles have a guy that's playing with a chip on his shoulder in a game that could buy them first-round advantage. And even if something happens, God forbid, in the playoffs, knock on wood. But if something did, he has that, mentality, I have something to prove in the playoffs. Just kind of like Nick Foles did. So, yeah, I think at the end of the day for the Giants, I think that the Giants will beat the Colts if that's what we're on, this topic. And I think that they'll end up winning, but I think it'll be like 31-24. And I think it'll be like a 2-minute drill touchdown.
You're saying that the Seglio house is popping bottles because they're in the playoffs on Sunday.
Oh, if they win on Sunday, they'll clinch?
Yes.
Wow, it would be the first time in years that the Giants have clinched.
Yeah, was the last year that they clinched. So, yeah, I'm going with the Giants. They have no excuses. Now, me and my dad were talking about this earlier today. He says the Giants might lose this game because of all the injuries they have. You're playing Jeff Saturday's Indianapolis Colts, for God's sake. You should win this game, regardless. Anyway.
They're a gritty team. I agree with your dad, though. He's got a good point.
I know. He's a huge Giants fan, and I can understand where he's coming from. He's just as pessimistic as I am with the flipping Mets, but that's a completely different topic. I can't believe we're saying this game is going to be a competitive one. The Carolina Panthers and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The winner will most likely win the NFC South.
I think that the Bucs are going to win it, and I think it's not even going to be close, frankly. I think it's because of the edge at QB, and that's the only reason why. But give me the Bucs.
I also go with the Bucs, but I'm praying to the holiest of gods the Panthers win. The Panthers win, that'd be hilarious. Next up, we have the Broncos and the Chiefs. Just go with the Kansas City Chiefs, all right? We shouldn't even have to talk about this.
I got the Chiefs. I think even if the Chiefs end up sitting Patrick Mahomes, which they probably should.
That might give Jalen an edge if he plays against
him. It will, yeah. I honestly hope that happens. The Chiefs should sit him. I don't know if they're still playing for first-round bye, but I would like to see – I think that the Chiefs' backup could beat the Broncos. They're that bad. Maybe Patrick Mahomes plays a quarter or two and then comes out, and that could help Jalen out. You're right. So we'll see.
So these next two have a history of playing spoiler with each other. The Bears and the Lions in Detroit. Now, the Lions were one of the hottest teams in the league.
Lions. I got the Lions in that all day.
Until they met Steve Wilkes' Carolina Panthers, who apparently are now the hottest team in the game. But I don't think the Bears have a chance in hell. The Lions win. Take the O from that game. Lions are going to kill them. Next up, the Cleveland Browns and the Washington Commanders. Now, if the Commanders win, I believe they will jump the Giants if they lose, which will put them at the 6th seed and the Giants at the 7th. So I'm going with the Commanders here. I think Heineke is going to have a really good game. And me and Nico discussed this. He's a little bit nervous for this game, and I don't blame him at all, but I'm going with the Commanders.
And who do the Commanders play this week again? Sorry.
Cleveland.
Yeah, I don't blame Nico either. That's a good point. I'm gonna say give me Cleveland actually because I'm an Eagles fan, number one. But number two, I honestly think that there's something going on in Cleveland right now. They're trying to get something going. It's not gonna happen this year, but next year I think it's gonna finally come together. If Deshaun Watson can put all that shit behind him. We'll see how that goes. But if Deshaun Watson stays and all this shit gets, breezed over, and I don't mean it like that when I say shit, I just mean all these legal allegations. Well, not even legal allegations, guilty allegations because he fucking did it. Let's be honest.
He did.
Whatever happens, if the NFL is going to ban him. I think that they should personally. That's my personal opinion, but not to get political. The point is, whatever happens, I think needs to get ironed out with that situation. It's like it's in a gray area right now. It needs to be black or white. It needs to figure out does he stay or does he go, so that the Browns know, are we drafting a QB? Are we going for Gardner Minshew? You know what I mean? That's their
100%.
last piece that they need. And if it's funny because they finally have that last piece, it's just the guy's so fucking dumb that he can't even, you know what I mean? It's a shit show. So I think for the Browns, I feel bad for Browns fans. If you have any Browns fans that are friends, it has been a terrible, terrible sequence of QBs, and I don't feel worse for any other team in the NFL than Browns fans because they have suffered for years now.
They have.
I want it to be their time, but I've been saying it for 3 years now. I think that they'll win this game personally, just because Watson's playing and they're playing good football right now. But I don't think that the Browns are going to go anywhere anytime soon.
I can understand that 100%. Next game. Regardless of what happens, this game literally means nothing. The Jaguars and the Texans. Regardless of who wins this game, the
Jaguars. I don't even have anything else to say. Jaguars.
I think hot take, the Jaguars should bench all their starters and save them for next week against the Titans. Because this game does not matter to the Texans.
Are the Jaguars in? Are the Jaguars in though? Officially, they need to win.
The Jaguars are in first place, and they have the division record over the Titans.
Oh, so they won the division, right?
Not yet. Whoever wins Week 18 is going to win the division.
Well, what if the Jaguars lose? No, the Jaguars still should win then, because whoever wins the division that week, you're right, they would both have to win out. So
Correct.
If the Jaguars lose, then the Jaguars still have something to play for. So they do. I bet you Trevor Lawrence stays in the first half, and then they take him out. That's what they should do.
Yeah. Next up, we got the 49ers and the Raiders. The 49ers are my biggest enemy in this league. They just don't. I've had a terrible year in the NFL this year. The goddamn Rams are 5-10 right now. The Chargers made the playoffs, and the Niners won the West. Could not get any worse for me. You, on the other hand, are the number one team in the league, so be grateful.
Hey, I am grateful, and I think that I'll say this. I think that this would be a closer game because the Brock Purdy train is not going to last forever. He's going to get knocked off soon. The playoffs are coming. Real situations are going to happen. Real football players are going to, pop up. Not saying Brock Purdy isn't built for that. I just think he's a rookie. We'll see what happens to rookie QBs. And we know that sample size history isn't very good. I think that the Raiders, honestly, could have probably competed with the 49ers with all their injuries if they would have started Derek Carr. That being said, I still think that they're going to probably compete. You're right, because there's just something about a backup QB going against a team that they should beat in a franchise like the Raiders. Watch the Raiders go out and win this game. They have no business winning this game, but watch it. I'm taking the 49ers, but I'm just saying I wouldn't be shocked if the Raiders go out and win this game.
I'm going with the Raiders. The Niners always lose a game that they shouldn't. Next up, we got the Jets and the Seahawks, and one of the more important games of the year.
Yeah. I would say give me the Jets in it, but it's going to be a really good game. I think that the Jets are a better team than people give them credit for. This is the first year in a while that the Jets are a 7-win team, and they are competing for the playoffs just like the Finns are. So give me the Jets.
Both of these teams are absolute mirages from the start of the season. One of them is going to completely fall off. But I got to say, the Seahawks are done for. The Jets are going to be done for in the playoffs too. But I think that Mike White or whoever their quarterback is has one last dance. And I think that they're going to beat the Seahawks. Next up, we have the Vikings and the Packers. Now, note, if the Eagles lose out and the Vikings win out, the Vikings will clinch home field advantage. They can't, however, because the Philadelphia Eagles got that head-to-head tiebreaker when they beat the living piss out of them in week 2.
So if the Eagles lose out and the Vikings win out, the Vikings would have the advantage then?
Oh, I almost forgot. And if the Cowboys win out, they'll take the NFC East. A lot of pressure on the Eagles.
I don't know if the Cowboys can still win out or win the NFC.
I've checked it before.
They can? Wow.
Yeah, I've tested this.
Damn, I guess you're right. So, yeah, I guess a lot of pressure, but also at the same time, take it game by game. Don't overthink it. You know what I mean? If you look at it like that, you're going to stress yourself out. If you're smart about it and you say, look, we got the Saints this week. Let's just focus on kicking Saint ass. I think good things will happen. And then who knows? Next week, this may not even be a problem for the Eagles.
Yeah.
And Matt Bear may be coming to Philly for nothing.
Hopefully.
We'll watch the game still, but it'll be a worthless game.
It will be a worthless game. I agree. Next up on our list, we have a game that I thought I'd be looking forward to at the start of the season to see the largest invasion of Ram fans of all time. However, that's no longer the case because we're 5-10 and I got this GLD chain for absolutely nothing because this team blows. The Battle of LA, the Rams and the Chargers. The Chargers are always going to be the Chargers, is what I would say. But unfortunately, the Chargers are good this year, so I'm taking them to beat us. Whoop-de-doo. Congratulations. You beat Baker Mayfield. Good job.
Yeah, I'm with you, man. The Chargers have a lot to prove. They didn't make the playoffs last year. They got screwed. So I say, they're already in the playoffs, but I think that they're still playing for better seed. So I think that the Chargers will come away with this, but it'll be a close game.
Interesting. All right, next up, the game that got flexed to Sunday Night Football, the Baltimore Ravens and the Pittsburgh Steelers. The Steelers somehow, some way have a chance of getting into the playoffs. If they lose, they're out. If they win, they actually have a chance.
Give me the Ravens.
I'm going Steelers. Steelers are going to fluke their way into the playoffs because Mike Tomlin cannot have a losing season. That's just the truth. And the final game, probably the best Monday Night Football game we're going to have all year, that sums up to Chiefs and Rams back in 2018. The Bills and the Bengals, a game I'm looking forward to.
Bills and Bengals, man. I got to say, give me the Bengals.
Interesting.
I know that's a hot take. There's something about December Joe Burrow. I don't know what it is. Joe Burrow's coming back, baby. When it gets cold, that guy plays lights out. I'm not saying Josh Allen doesn't. I just think that it's one of those things where the Bills are kind of like a little bit cocky, riding a little bit of a high, and a team like the Bengals could take them by surprise. So give me the Bengals. It'll be like when the Bengals beat the Chiefs last year, and everybody thought that I was crazy when I said it was going to happen, and then it happened.
By the way, at the end of the day, this team still owns Joe Shiesty.
And I mean the first time that the Bengals beat the Chiefs last year, not the second time, by the way.
No one saw the second one coming. No one saw the Bengals even making the playoffs last year. Let's tell the truth here for a second.
I did. There's footage on Up for Debate the first 2 weeks before the playoffs of me saying that the Bengals would go to the Super Bowl with Jay Fly. I swear to God. If you go on Up for Debate's YouTube, you can find it. What kind of lunatics would say that? And Alex Robson comes on our show and he told me I was smoking all kinds of crack and he was making all kinds of jokes. But I seriously think there's something with Joe Burrow when it gets cold out and he just locks in.
There's something that I said last year, which y'all You guys love to go. People love to scroll through my old TikToks. I had a really high pitched voice, and it hurts my ears every time I listen to myself talk. Sometimes I said the Rams were going to win the Super Bowl. Everyone called me a crackhead, and look what happened.
I said that the Eagles would win the Super Bowl this year, so hopefully I have the same effect that you had last year, my friend.
Am I invited to the parade on Broad Street?
Yeah, of course. You're always welcome. Don't worry. If you want to come to Philadelphia, you're more than welcome.
I might listen. I don't mind Philadelphia in the winter, but when it gets to the spring, it's on. But I'm going with the Buffalo Bills. They're the hottest team in the league right now for good reason. So
yeah,
that about does it for our NFL picks. Let's talk some playoff scenarios. You as an Eagles fan have probably the highest pressure out of everyone in the league. You're basically the 07 Patriots, except you've lost 2 games. You've literally had the perfect roster. Best O-line in the league, a top 5 offense, and probably a top 2 defense, if we're being honest. Although Jonathan Gannon really doesn't know what he's doing with his defense.
It's funny because it's like all the players are basically coaching themselves. That's what I said to Jack the other day, and he agreed. And I think you're right. The Eagles have a lot of pressure. My biggest playoff scenario that I would like to see is the Eagles get the 1 seed, and then Dallas comes into Philadelphia, and we beat Dallas to go to, I guess it would be the division. No, it would be the NFC Championship. Holy shit. Yeah, so it would be Dallas comes to Philly, and then we kick their ass, and then it would probably be Minnesota coming back to Philadelphia 5 years later for the same game so that we can just whoop their ass again to go to the Super Bowl. That's going to be wild if that's how it goes.
So that makes me ask you this. As a huge Eagles fan, what is one team you do not want to see in the playoffs?
I don't want to see the Vikings, believe it or not. I know I just talk shit on them, but if there's a team that I'm the most afraid of in the NFC, it's actually the Vikings. I think that they're the most complete team besides the Eagles in the NFC. They have a solid QB, I'll say. They have phenomenal receivers. They have a great running back. They have a decent enough defense. The Vikings could make a run. And then after the Vikings, I'm a little bit scared of the 49ers, but I'm more scared of the Buccaneers or the Packers than the 49ers just because they have that QB that if they get in the playoffs, Aaron Rodgers and Tom Brady can make anything happen. Brock Purdy, you've been solid. I've seen your stats. The past 3 games you've won, but the playoffs are a different beast. So I'm actually the most scared of the Vikings. What about you?
Oh, man.
Like, if you were an Eagles fan, who would you be the most afraid of? I'm not really afraid of Dallas. We were just close with them with our backup QB.
I think it's easy to say. I think I have to say it. It's San Francisco. I think that's the only defense that can compete with the Eagles' offense. I do believe San Francisco is a team. I sure as hell. Me as a Rams fan, I want no part of San Francisco in the regular season because they own us. They won 8 games in a row against us in the regular season. I'd say if I'm an Eagles fan, I'd be scared to death if I saw the freaking 49ers because their offense is unbelievable and their defense is the best in football. Put them together, and you got yourself an amazing team. A Super Bowl contender in my eyes.
Yeah.
So that's how I feel. The playoffs that I'm predicting is I think the Giants are going to fall out of the playoffs. If they lose this week, they're going to fall out for sure. I think
and who takes their spot?
The Lions and the Commanders are my wild cards. And Dallas.
Could you imagine a Lions and Commanders playoff game? I would love to see a Commanders and Vikings and the Commanders upset the Vikings in Minnesota. But I would love to see, better yet, the Commanders and the Lions just somehow match up against each other. I guess it technically wouldn't happen because they would both be low seed. But that would have to be the NFC Championship if they ever met. That would be wild. That's not going to happen. I'm just saying. I think that the Lions will have a better chance to make a run in the playoffs than the Commanders, in my opinion.
Okay, that's interesting. I can understand that 100%. But if we're going to switch over to the AFC, I got to say the teams that I'm watching, I'm a little bit worried about Jacksonville because they are very sneaky good.
And Doug Peterson is there, yep. And they have a young QB who nobody knows anything about. There's not a lot of film on.
How much you love Dougie P.
I do, and I think you're right. That's a good point you bring up about Jacksonville. Teams just being sneaky good. So if I'm most scared of an AFC team, though, my team I'm most scared of in the AFC is the Bills. I actually think that this is Josh Allen's year, finally. It should be. And if it's not,
I agree.
I think that the Bills are in a lot of trouble.
Yeah, I agree 100%. But another team that I'm a little bit concerned about is in the NFC, the Lions. They are playing like their lives are at stake.
I'll be right back.
Well, this is very unprofessional.
I'm getting my food. I'll be back in 10 seconds.
Very unprofessional by my guest. Without further ado, let's move on to our next topic, the overachievers, the failures, or just right. The first team that I feel like we have to start off with are my Los Angeles Rams. This season was an absolute abomination. I'm disgusted by our performance. Our offense was terrible. Our defense was eh. Our coaches are both some of the dumbest, you know what, I've ever seen. Morris needs to be fired. Cohen can flee back to Kentucky. I want no part of either of these guys. I want a whole new coaching staff besides McVay, and I want a whole new offensive line next year with the new running back because Cam Akers is not it. Considering that we were supposed to be contenders for Super Bowl, contenders, and you have 5 wins?
Pretenders. Pretenders is the exact term. Pretenders is what you should
the Los
say.
Angeles Rams, and no one can call our Super Bowl season a one-year wonder because our whole team is injured. But at the end of the day, you still got to compete. The Rams are the biggest failures of the season. No question about it. They are my failure.
Is McVay even like coaching anymore? Like I know he's like coaching, but like does he even like really? Or is it just a wash this year for you guys? Like pretty much.
Yeah, this year is a total wash.
Like when was the last time you guys won a game? Christmas, right?
Last week.
Oh, you did, yeah. You guys beat the shit out of the Broncos.
On Christmas Day. I was sitting here because I'm at my Italian people's houses. I'm sitting there having my meatballs with my ravioli, watching the Rams score 50 points on the Broncos, and I'm like,
hallelujah.
Where the was this?
You guys lost to the Cardinals?
Yup.
Yeah, I'm looking at your past couple of games, and it looks like you guys didn't win since October.
The whole team
until well, you beat the Raiders, but that was like barely.
Never forget the Baker Mayfield game. Next up, I feel like another team we got to talk about. The Philadelphia Eagles. Dalton, you have all as of right now. If the Eagles lose out, you were 100. Wait.
The Eagles could be a one. You're right. They could be a one and done, and I'm really scared.
Did you say 14-3 or 13-4?
I think that we'll finish 14-3. And if the Eagles go out and lose a playoff game after going 14-3, it'll be worse than the Cowboys losing last year. It'll probably be the most embarrassing playoff loss first round, I think, since the Ravens, the year that Lamar won the MVP and the Ravens had 13 wins, and then they got smacked first round.
That was really, and that wasn't the first round. That was the second round, but basically
nobody saw it coming.
No one saw it coming, but I think you were right on that when you said 14-3, correct? At the start of the season?
Mm-hmm.
Wow. I'm impressed.
I guess that old guy Dalt sometimes knows what he's talking about.
Or maybe you were just lucky this year.
Maybe, huh?
It also helps that I've picked you guys every single game.
I'm sure that that's helping out. I think God says every week before the game, he goes, did JJ Seglio pick the Eagles this week? Oh, hell yeah, money line. I'm betting on them.
God bless, go Birds, baby. There it is. I'm back to saying it again. No, I thought I was done with that phrase. Regardless,
it's all good.
Fact, I think the Philadelphia Eagles are 100% overachievers. Because I expect them to get 10 wins. I'm gonna keep it above with you. I judge going 10-7. Which is understandable.
I think that they're just right is where I would put them because they had an easy schedule. Now, if they get a playoff win this year, I'd say they're overachievers. If they get a playoff loss, I'd say it's a failure. It all depends on what happens in the playoffs. There's no just right going to the playoffs. You either win or you lose, you know?
Yeah. The next team I feel we got to move on to is I'm just going to address this. The entire NFC East are all overachievers.
Yeah.
Except the Cowboys. Because your division.
The NFC Beast.
Yeah, you went from the laughing stock to whatever you are this year. Jesus Christ.
The NFC Beast. That's what we're called this year.
Same thing with the AFC East. Well, the Pats and Jets are falling off, but still, all overachievers. The next teams that we're going to mention are two of my biggest failures. The Las Vegas Raiders and the godforsaken Denver Broncos. Lord help us all. We all thought the Broncos, oh my God, the Broncos are a quarterback away. They trade everything for Russell Wilson. And it might
Broncos country, let's ride.
Yes, sir. That might be the worst trade in the history of the NFL. That is my take on it. The worst trade in NFL history.
What do you think? I know, Donnie, right? What's his pick and spreads, right? Donnie is a huge Cardinals fan. Everybody knows that. But Donnie also is very big on the Broncos. And last year when he would come on up for debate, Donnie all the time was talking about the Broncos. I actually got to text him and ask him what happened with them because nobody saw the Broncos sucking. You're right. They went from having a Super Bowl-like team top to bottom, except for a QB, to being the worst team pretty much in the league. Definitely not maybe the worst compared to the Texans, but I would say the biggest underachiever in the league by far this year. By far.
Oh, I agree 100%. Same with the Raiders. I've been saying it all year long. Josh McDaniels is not the guy to coach a team like the Raiders. They are filled with talent. They have Max Crosby, Devontae Adams, they have Josh Jacobs, they have Hunter Renfrow is really talented, but you got Darren Waller. You have all these stars, and you're 6-9. Now, granted, you say
so you blame more the coaches, not the players, right?
Oh, I'm 100% blaming McDaniels.
Mm-hmm.
McDaniels is not the answer, and I've said it all year long. I will beat on that drum forever and ever and ever. Next thing I want to talk about are the Seattle Seahawks. I think them, the New York Giants, and the New York Jets are three of the biggest mirages the NFL has ever seen.
Mm-hmm.
Giants start off 6-1. All of New York, my entire school, everyone who's a Giants fan is all up in my face saying, JJ, what's going on, buddy? How are we do better than the rest? Because you had the second easiest schedule in the league, bud. And look what happens when you play the big dogs. Detroit Lions killed you. Eagles.
It technically went. Cowboys had the easiest going into the season. It changes obviously as the season goes on. Who gets better? Who gets worse? But going into the year, number one, it was the Cowboys. Cowboys fans don't want to admit that. I just want to bring that up. Going into the year, the Cowboys had the easiest schedule in the NFL, and then it was the Eagles, and then it was the Giants.
Then the Commanders. We had the hardest.
Yeah. You guys did.
So they're one loss to the Cowboys. Okay, so whatever. They think they're so good. They beat the Titans on a missed field goal. They beat the Panthers by 3 points. They lost to the Cowboys by a touchdown. They beat the Bears by 8. Beat the Packers by 5. Beat the Ravens by 4. The Jaguars by 6. Every win they had in that span was one possession. You get smoked by the Seahawks. You barely beat the Texans. You get owned by Jared Goff at MetLife Stadium. Once again, because last time he put up 51. This time he put up 31. And last time he put up 20 against the Jets. So Jared Goff is the best quarterback to ever play MetLife Stadium. He's never lost a game there. You get owned by the Cowboys again. You tie the Washington Commanders. You didn't even deserve the tie. You did everything you could to lose that game. By the way, this better be getting clipped, by the way, because I will definitely post this. Someone better clip this rant. The Eagles give you the worst loss I think the Giants have ever taken, and you were there for it. I'm sure the atmosphere was awesome.
It was electric. You're right. To be able to go to enemy territory and not only win, but win like that, that's something. And the Giants fans were not happy. One of the Giants fans actually tried to fight KJ, and KJ had the worst comeback in NFL history. He looked at the guy, and like the guy's coming out of the bathroom, right? And the guy's clearly drunk. You know what I mean? He's just upset after the game. Giants fan, I get it. It's an angry game. Eagles Giants is always gritty. It was raining the whole time. He's upset. Well, he comes out, JJ, of the porta potty, and KJ's like, "Oh, I got the best comeback." And I'm like, as soon as KJ said that, I was like, "This is going to be the worst comeback ever." And KJ looks at the guy, and he goes, "Not only do the Eagles own you, but the Seagulls do as well," because there's all these seagulls around. And he goes, "E-A!" Does the chant, and the guy just looks at KJ, and he goes, "I'm going to whoop your ass if you don't, like, walk 10 more." And that was it. That was where it ended. But I think for the Giants, man, the Giants were overachievers this year, and I got to give them props. Even though they've lost a couple of games bad, I thought that the Giants were going to be a 3-4 win team going into this year, and they're going to make the playoffs. They're going to. So good for you, Giants fans.
Congratulations, Giants fans. You took advantage of an easy schedule. Take your chocolate chip cookie and shove it where the sun don't shine. Then you barely beat the Washington Commanders on a game that the referees handed to you. And then you
Let me ask you a question.
Ellioted again. First it was Jake Elliott, then it was Graham Gano, your current kicker, and now you get hit by Greg Joseph. The Giants are probably the biggest frauds in the NFL. Because
if your Rams had the schedule that the Giants had, do you think that you guys would be a playoff team?
No, because the injuries killed us.
Okay.
However, if we didn't have as many injuries as we had, I think we'd be maybe
and Stafford, yeah.
Stafford, Donald, Kupp, A-Rob, the whole O-line, Floyd, a lot of guys.
God, you guys got screwed this year. That's literally your whole team.
It was not fair. The Giants, as of right now, are complete overachievers, but if they don't miss the playoffs this season, I'd put them at just right. That's what I projected for them. The next mirage, however, are the Tennessee Titans. God knows what happened to that team this year. When they lost to the Giants, I was a little bit concerned. Then they get beat up by the Bills, 41-7. Got a little bit more concerned. Snuck past the Raiders, snuck past the Colts, snuck past the Commanders, snuck past the Colts again, snuck past the Texans, for Christ's sake. Almost beat the Chiefs in overtime, snuck past Jesus Christ. The Titans are bigger mirage than the Giants are. They won every game except by one possession. You beat the Broncos by barely. You beat the Packers by 10, but the Packers were terrible at the time. You get snuck out by the Bengals. The Eagles and A.J. Brown completely destroyed you again.
That was a great game.
I could tell. The Jaguars killed you. You barely lost to the Chargers. And you lose to the freaking Texans at home. The worst team in the league. You could have locked up the division with a win. You completely blew it. Just absolutely embarrassing. And I lost my guess. Lord.
I'm just bringing you with me this time so you don't call me unprofessional again, because I'm going downstairs to get a drink because this is my first time I'm finally getting around to eating. But I'm still listening to you. Don't worry. You're just going to get a Holland household this time, JJ.
Awesome. By the way, Titans, they're a complete failure as of right now. Even if they make the playoffs, even if they win the AFC South, still a failure. Next up on my rants, the Indianapolis Colts. I had this team getting 11 wins. But this team...
What? Going into the year you did?
We all had the Colts win the division.
I think winning the division, but I didn't have them like past 9-8 wins. I thought that they were going to barely.
I gave them 11. I mean,
all right.
When they tied to the Texans, I knew something was up. You lose 24-0. Okay, you can't beat Jacksonville. So be it. You beat the Chiefs. You got us all excited. You scored 12 points on the Denver Broncos in perhaps the worst NFL game I've ever seen in my life. I decided to never watch Thursday Night Football for about 5 weeks straight after watching those games.
That was awful.
Horrendous. And it was the Broncos, or no, it was the Commanders and the Bears the second time. My boy Nico was at that game. Shout out to him. You barely beat the Jaguars, so be it. Titans, you lost to them. The Commanders game I can understand. The Pats game I can understand. But then you gave the Eagles a fight, but then you lose 54-19 to the Cowboys, give up 3 defensive touchdowns in the fourth quarter. Just inexcusable. There's a reason your team is 4-10-1. The Colts are a huge failure this season. Jaguars, I'm considering them overachievers.
Are the Colts the second most disappointing team this year, would you say, behind the Broncos? Because the Broncos are obviously one.
No, the Rams are number one. Are you kidding me?
No. The Broncos, I would say, are the Broncos are more of a disappointment than you guys. You guys, look, there is something called a Super Bowl slump that all NFL fans know about. Trust me, we had one a couple years back. We still made the playoffs. It wasn't as bad as yours. Yours is pretty fucking bad. I'm not gonna lie. Yours is unlucky though. The Broncos aren't unlucky. The Broncos are just trash. That's the difference though. Like the Broncos, literally, Russell Wilson was supposed to be MVP caliber player this year, and he is awful. It's not like he's injured. He's just awful.
Terrible.
But wasn't Nathaniel Hackett, you know?
Nathaniel couldn't hack it. Next up on my rants, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. We all said it. We all said stay away. You came back. You lost your wife. You lost your passion. You lost your skill. You lost everything to do with your character, Thomas.
And he still might make the playoffs. About
to lose to the Carolina Panthers. If you lose this game, if the Buccaneers do not make the playoffs, Tom Brady, just retire. Don't even think about playing. You've already lost all your skill. You should have went out when you can because we still own you. You've not beat us since you went to Florida. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers are huge failures. Now, I think I have time for one more, and it's a team that I've been meaning to talk about for a long time. And it's what honestly might be my second favorite team besides maybe the Philadelphia Eagles. The Detroit Lions. I've had a love for the Lions for a long time, ever since they got Goff. I love the man to death. But what the Lions have done this year is incredible. And it's making that 9-8 take I had look even better. Because everyone called me a madman when I said the Lions were going to win 9 games. They went out and they get 9 wins. So everybody counted me out. Suck it. Simple as that. But I'm so impressed with what the Lions have done. They've been unbelievable. Straight up. I love what they've been doing. They almost beat the Bills. They smoked the Jaguars. They beat the Vikings. They beat the Jets. They lost the Panthers. So what? But they were on such a good stretch.
Do you miss Goff?
Playoffs. Well, I miss Goff a lot.
But here's the thing. If the Goff trade would have never happened, you guys, I don't think, would have gotten that Super Bowl. So it's, you take it while you can get it.
It was like when the Raptors traded Kawhi Leonard.
It's like you give up your future for a championship right now.
They traded DeRozan and they got Kawhi out of it. So I think it worked out for them at the end. But yeah, the Kansas City Chiefs are definitely overachievers. I don't think anyone expected them to be first place in their division. But yeah, that just about does it for my rants, unless there's any other team I want to talk about.
I saw the Chiefs being number one. You didn't see that?
Oh,
who do you think was going to win the division? The Chargers or the?
I had the Raiders. I had the Raiders going 12-5. I thought that was explosive. So I look like an even bigger bozo now.
I mean, you did call the rushing. Josh Jacobs had a hell of a year, but I wonder how much of that is just because the Raiders sucked.
Yeah, they're terrible.
You know what I mean? It's like garbage time yards.
Yeah. So if I was gonna end this off with a top 3, my overachievers for this season are the New York Giants, the Jacksonville Jaguars, and the Philadelphia Eagles. Those are my overachievers for the year.
I like that list a lot. That's a good list.
My failures for this season. As of now, the LA Rams, the Denver Broncos, the Las Vegas Raiders, and who else am I forgetting? Oh, yeah, that's right. The Indianapolis Colts. And if they lose the division, Titans. Now, what I think is just right. Cowboys finishing probably 1 or 2 in the division. They'll probably not win a single playoff game because it's the Dallas Cowboys and Jerry Jones doesn't deserve anything in his life. He's just a rich old you-know-what. The Vikings, I think we all saw the Vikings being good. And probably...
Did we, though? Did we? A lot of people I know were sleeping on the Vikings.
I wasn't. I knew they were going to win the division. And the Buffalo Bills. That's what I feel like is just right. So... without further ado, that about does it for episode 4 of Cegs Table. Dalton, thank you so much for coming on tonight. I hope you had fun.
Of course, always do. Thank you, man. Thanks for having me. I appreciate you.
And hopefully we can get our boy on soon because that would be a blast with a nice little Up for Debate reunion. If you feel
Yeah.
So yeah, thanks so much for coming on, everybody. Have yourself a blessed day.